We are getting close to Halloween. I thought we would do another video on this spooky fucker, Fritz Haarmann. As you may know by now, these take me a very long time, specifically ones from the Bloody Alphabet books like this, so if you can like, comment, share, copy link, let me know still on your For You page, anything to help me get views, I appreciate you to the fullest extent of the law. Okay, Friedrich Heinrich Karl Fritz Haarmann was born on October 25th, 1879, and he lived until April 15th, 1925. He was a German serial killer known as the Butcher of Hanover, the Vampire of Hanover, and the Wolfman, who committed the sexual assault, murder, mutilation, and dismemberment of at least 24 boys and young men between 1918 and 1924 in Hanover, Germany. He was found guilty for 24 of the 27 murders for which he was tried and was sentenced to death by beheading in December of 1924. In addition, in accordance with German practice, his honorary rights of citizenship were revoked and he was subsequently executed in April of 1925. Haarmann became known as the Butcher of Hanover due to the extensive mutilation and dismemberment committed upon his victims' bodies, and by such titles as the Vampire of Hanover and the Wolfman, because of his preferred method of biting into or through his victims' throats to kill them. Fritz Haarmann was born in Hanover and was the sixth and the youngest child born to Joanna and Ollie Haarmann. Fritz was a quiet child with few friends his own age or gender and who seldom socialized with any children other than his siblings outside of school. From a young age, Haarmann's behavior was noticeably effeminate. He was known to shun stereotypically boys' activities and instead play with his sister's dolls and dress in their clothes. He also developed a passion for both needlework and cookery and would develop a close relationship with his mother, who spoiled him as her youngest child. Reportedly, Haarmann's father married his mother when she was 41 years old and 7 years his senior due to her wealth and substantial dowry their marriage would eventually bring him. Haarmann Sr. was known to be argumentative and short-tempered, and through several affairs he conducted throughout their marriage would contract syphilis in his later years. Despite being an authoritarian who had little time for his children and a notorious womanizer, Haarmann's parents did remain together until his mother's death in April of 1901. In 1886, Haarmann began his schooling, where he was noted by teachers to be a spoiled and mollycoddled child who was prone to daydreaming. Although his behavior at school was noted to be exemplary, his academic performance was below average, and Haarmann had to repeat a school year twice. On one occasion, when he was about 8 years old, Haarmann was molested by one of his teachers, although he never discussed this incident in detail. He eventually grew into a trim, physically strong youth, and with his parents' consent, he finished his schooling in 1894. Upon leaving school, he briefly obtained employment as an apprentice locksmith in Neuf-Brissac, which is now a part of France, before opting at age 15 to enroll in a military academy in the town of Brissac. His military training began on April 4th, 1895. Initially, Haarmann adapted well to military life and performed well as a trainee soldier, but after 5 months of military service, he began to suffer periodic lapses of consciousness, which, although initially described by a medical professional as being sudden signs of anxiety neurosis, would subsequently be diagnosed as being equivalent to epilepsy in October of 1895. The following month, Haarmann discharged himself from the military and returned to Hanover, where he briefly worked in a cigar factory his father had established in 1888. At the age of 16, Haarmann committed his first known sexual offenses, all of which involved young boys whom he would lure to secluded areas, typically cellars, before proceeding to sexually abuse them. He was arrested and spent time in a mental institution for these crimes. He ended up escaping from the mental institution after 7 months, and with apparent assistance from his mother, he fled to Zurich, Switzerland. There, he lived with a relative of his mother's and obtained employment as a handyman in a shipyard. He remained in Zurich for 16 months before he came back to Hanover in 1899. Early the following year, he got engaged and got his fiancée pregnant, and then in October of 1900, he received notification to perform his compulsory military service. He was eventually classified as disabled and unable to work from the army in 1904, and he and his fiancée opened a fishmongery with help from his father. However, over the next decade after that, he got into petty crime and then eventually went on to commit the more gruesome acts of murder and sexual assault. He was executed via guillotine, and after his death, parts of his brain were studied.